I booted up my Sumego app again for the first time in a while, and expecting to be rusty, I actually feel pretty good about my Sumego abilities. I kind of solved some pretty nice problems without too much difficulty, and so I guess maybe I have been keeping my reading game on point, or maybe the reading ability doesn't really fade as much over time. I know that when I play a quick game on Fox, after not having played those kinds of games in a while, it takes a couple of games to get back into the groove and to be able to think on my feet. But in terms of reading ability, it doesn't seem like that faded for me that much. Could also be that I am actively using that ability and training it and honing it while I play my correspondence games, but I was pretty surprised and happy with my abilities. Just doing regular Sumego on my app that I used to do. I'm trying to get back into to see if I can sharpen my skills some more. Welcome to Star Point, the show about Go for Go fans away from the board. And I want to tell you a story about playing a 9x9 game casually against my fiance. Well, she was not my fiance at the time, but she was my girlfriend, and she's very much a beginner at the game, and I wanted to play against her to just have a little fun and show her what the game was about. And she didn't take any handicaps, so all I did was try to let her win. Okay, I really played in a way that gave her the opportunity to win the game, and in fact, she was winning. I was focused on a corner of the board and giving her the opportunity to take all the big points. But what happened was, in that corner of the board, she kept on messing with my stones, and I thought, I'm going to let her win, but I'm going to make my group live. I'm going to at least take a stone here or two to make a little panuki and just have that at least small section of territory on the board. And when I did that, she got mad at me for taking her stone, thinking that I was going hard on her. She did not realize that she was actually winning the game. So I urged her to just continue and finish the game. And lo and behold, she finishes the game, seals up the rest of the territories, and she wins by quite a bit. And she realizes that I wasn't actually trying to make her feel bad and lose or anything like that. But she still kind of had this irked expression on her face. The fact that I still took her stones was kind of a bit of a letdown for her. So it's a funny thing that we experience as Go players, and I think there are many levels of this as time goes on. I think Go, and I've said this before, is one of the best games to illustrate the concept of greed and the consequences and punishment that can happen as a result of too much greed. This kind of greed evolves as you evolve as a player. In the beginning, you are greedy to just make any capture whatsoever. And that's basically the entire point of the game for you. And that's actually how we teach beginners most of the time when we play Capture Go, is just capture a stone. And then, after you play for a while, you realize, wait a second, these single stones don't actually matter that much in terms of winning the game. And I can let myself get captured here and there sometimes if it serves a greater good. And then you evolve that greed into some kind of large territory greed, where you want to have big swaths of the board and you try to have all the areas of the board to yourself. And then when you see that your opponent has a large area, you don't like it and you invade. Even though you may have more of a large area, you don't like seeing that it's threatening to you. And you want to get rid of their large territory no matter what, even if you have enough. And this kind of greed, it follows this progression to learning more about what is really important in the game. And of course, you always go into these dips of like this overcorrection kind of thing, where I'm greedy for single stones, and then I realize single stones don't matter, and then a lot of us, we neglect single stones even when they're actually important. So we do this balancing act through our careers. But eventually we start learning things like the value of influence, right? It's not all about the stones and the territory. Sometimes it's about influence, and that can actually help you a lot in the game. We learn how to sacrifice more and more stones. I know it took a while for me to be able to sacrifice 3 or more stones because it just felt so bad. And now I feel like I have a better understanding of what I need to get out of the bigger sacrifice. I feel like it took me a while because I was sacrificing 3 stones or more because I knew I needed to learn how to do that, and then I wasn't getting much out of it. But now I'm like, okay, what am I getting out of sacrificing these stones? Is it enough to cover that loss? Is sacrificing those 3 stones going to make my opponent super powerful, right? And so I know how to evaluate that a little more. I mean, for example, if you get this sealed wall on the outside for the exchange of 3 stones, that's usually going to be pretty good. But then if you just sacrifice 3 stones for like a small point move, and then they take that and they get this immense thickness in the middle of the board, that's usually bad. So this greed stuff, why am I talking about it? Well, I wanted to talk about something that I like to call Scorched Earth Go, which has been a problem of mine for a while, and I'm trying to overcome this problem. Let me describe what kind of greed dynamics play into this kind of Go that I play sometimes. So when I'm playing a game, I feel that I need to play optimally in all situations, and that's a reasonable thing to think. If I'm playing a corner situation, I should play optimally there. If I'm playing an end game, I should play optimally there. If I'm playing a big point move, I should play optimally there. And it's just, that's how you try to win a game. You try to play optimally at all levels. So, okay, why is that a problem sometimes? Let's say that I'm playing a game and I see a group that I could potentially kill. Maybe I don't need to kill it, but maybe I can kill it. Maybe I know that I can kill it. So why not try for it, right? Maybe I don't need to kill it now, because if I don't kill it, I can still win the game, but might be a little bit shaky. Versus I kill this group and I have a for sure 100% win. If I were a supercomputer and I could play optimally, then I'll just kill the group and I win, right? So why not go for that? Why not destroy that group? And then why not apply that logic to every single group on the board? Well, that's why I call it Scorched Earth Go, is because I'm playing in a way where I don't let my opponent have anything. And this sounds a lot like this earlier Q form of Go, where you don't let your opponent have large territories. But in this example, it's more to do with maybe life and death situations and things like that, or little things where you can hyper aggressively force your opponent into submission. And the logic seems sound on the surface, right? If I may not need to kill this group now, but if I want to become a better player, maybe I should learn how to kill this group right now, because I may need to kill it in some other game. And I should try to apply myself in that way. What if I don't kill this group and later on my opponent manages to upset me somewhere else? I want to have the insurance points. I want to take as much as I can. But what's wrong with that is, by going Scorched Earth, I'm practicing local techniques, but I'm getting less practice for a very important part of the game, which has more to do, I think, with temperance and seeing the bigger picture. And that kind of thing, it's not as easy to see or teach. Here's some examples that I came across while trying to illustrate this point of how this kind of perfectionism, this super optimal level of play tactic, can lead to your downfall. Napoleon's invasion of Russia was a strict and perfectionist strategy that did not allow for any kind of lenience in the plan. And that neglected the reality of the unpredictable weather and, ironically enough, Russia's own scorched earth technique that led to Napoleon's downfall. So Napoleon had a very clear vision of what he wanted for this army. And I mean, I'm no history buff, so I don't know enough about this to go into detail, but the gist of it being that he did not have a flexible enough approach and was not able to save his army. Another example, the Titanic was also a perfectionistic kind of vision of this boat, and this unsinkable luxury liner that they advertised as such, unsinkable. I mean, why would you invest in more lifeboats if your boat is unsinkable, right? That's suboptimal. There's no point in doing that. You might as well invest more into making it unsinkable than invest into safety features and heeding life's iceberg warnings, right? So the confidence in this flawless ship was blinding them to the actual risk that they could not get rid of fully for this liner, and ultimately led to its downfall. So in a way, when I'm playing Go, I'm like, okay, if I can kill all these groups, then why try to go for any other strategy, right? If this group can die through my play here, why would I care about anything else? I should focus all my attention and strategy into just killing this group, right? Because if I know it's possible and I can do it, then I should do it. But, that's in theory correct. Well, is it? Because even AlphaGo, who actually can play pretty much perfectly in every situation, taught us really big lessons about the game. Because we saw AlphaGo make suboptimal moves when it was already winning, saying to us, hey, what are we trying to do here? We're just trying to win the game. By half a point, 1 point, 20 points, it doesn't matter. So what does it matter if I play these suboptimal moves here? Whereas a human always takes as much as a human can possibly take. And that, I think, has been really leading to a lot of badly played, even victories, right? Even some of my victories, I feel maybe weren't won in the way that I should win them. It's a difficult concept to grasp with, because it seems so logically sound to just try your best on these situations, right? Just building the Titanic as unsinkably as possible and focusing all your energy on that, instead of putting life rafts in there enough to carry other people out, carry all the passengers out to safety in the event of a disaster. Why do that when you can prevent the disaster? It's like unsinkable logic. But in reality, Go is a game about temperance. It's about balance. It's about knowing moderation. How aggressive does your hand have to be in order to win the game? Those do or die tactics really should only come out if you are actually quite behind and you need to do something like that in order to win. That's when you need to do that. But otherwise, I think that as Go players, we benefit from making insurance moves, making suboptimal plays in order to get a better result, e.g. the win, right? In the game. And it's hard for us to do that because you just want to take more and more all the time. And you feel like every time you take more points, every time you kill a group, every time you make an invasion and succeed in living, those things all add up to some kind of giant riches that will ultimately lead you to winning the game. But it's oftentimes our downfall. And that's, I feel like, what I've been experiencing in a lot of my games. And it's hard to shake because it just seems so right. But if you look at our lives, we make these kind of safe and suboptimal choices all the time. Maybe some of us more than others. But for example, let's say there's a very low chance of rain, but there is a slight chance of rain. You can bring an umbrella, which if it doesn't rain, it's a minor inconvenience. You got to be holding around an umbrella all day, and it's not that bad. You made it through the day, and you're still going to be all right. But let's say you think there's a very low chance of rain, and you leave your umbrella at home, and then it rains. It's a disaster. I feel like there's an analogy there for many Go games where you don't have to play a move. You don't have to play this move because, maybe it's a suboptimal move. Maybe you don't need to play the move. But you play the move just in case there's something there. And you play the fix or whatever to make sure your group is alive, because if it's not, then it's a disaster and you will lose a winning game. So I feel like we do that all the time in the game, and when I'm playing an opponent and I'm losing and I see some tricky moves here and there, and my opponent plays a paranoid move to protect themselves, I actually get disappointed. I'm like, you know what? I can't overturn this game when my opponent is playing so safeguardedly like this. Of course, it's a different situation when it's like not a decided game and my opponent starts playing inefficient, unneeded, unnecessarily safe moves. Then I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's a free move. That's a passing move, and I can definitely take the advantage here. But if it's like I'm losing already and my opponent plays an insurance move, I'm like, okay, there's no way I can win this. And it's a great play by my opponent. So, when you have a large group that you are 90% sure is dead, right? You don't have that many meaningful other plays, and you can add in a move to make it 100% sure it's dead or alive if it's on your side. Obviously, it's like another way to put it. But this kind of 90% sure or win, right? Like if I'm 90% sure I'll win, and then I just add a move, and then I'll be 100% sure I'm going to win, even if it's a bad or unprofessional suboptimal move, it may be better to play the move, right? Because if it's a game deciding move, that's when I feel like should make those decisions. I don't know how you guys think about this. I feel like I've gone through this for a long time of just, I need to play 100% optimally. If I don't need to play here, I shouldn't play here, right? And I tried to be strict with myself for a long time, but I'm realizing more now that like, you can only sacrifice so much to the idea of winning. What I mean by that is if I'm focusing so much on my training and making the best moves and focusing on life and death training, eventually I might forget how to actually win the game. I might be just focused on training. And what are we trying to do here? I think that we should maybe not lose sight of the fact that in Go, the goal of the game is to actually win and not just be a great player. I hope that makes sense to some of you. And I would love to know your thoughts on these insurance types of moves and whether you have any experience on Scorched Earth Go thinking. When you're used to playing Scorched Earth Go and you're trying to transition out of it, one thing you will notice that you'll have to work on is that you need to have a better awareness of the state of the board and the game. Because with Scorched Earth Go, you basically don't need to know who's winning who's winning or not. Like you just have to take everything you can and you just hope at the end that the count is in your favor. But once you start backing off of Scorched Earth Go and you start making decisions on whether you want to aggress or not, you're going to have to think about who's ahead and by how much a lot more. And that's what's hard about it. Maybe that Scorched Earth Go technique came from my grinding many fast games of Fox. Because in that situation, I didn't have enough time to look at the board and ask myself, hey, how much am I winning by? Do I need this group? Do I not? Right? I just have to take as much as I can all the time. And so it starts to bring to life these skills that you never knew you needed. And that's another reason I think it's important to back off this kind of strategy. And there's so many proverbs about like not being greedy in Go, and there's a reason for that. So I don't know how to improve my sense other than just kind of repeating it in my head, like stop playing Scorched Earth Go. Maybe giving it a name is going to help me, because now I'm recognizing something that exists in my play. But now it's time for the DDK Advice Corner, and the tip of the day is use multiple lifelines or escape routes. So I was reviewing a game and someone jumped a pretty small jump, like a 1 or 2 space jump from a fully 100% alive group with 2 eyes in it. And the thing was that they were jumping into an area that was heavily controlled by the enemy. And it kind of makes sense, right? Not to go too deep in there, away from your lifeline, your 100% alive group with 2 eyes fully formed. Because if you go in, you get cut off, and then you die, then that's sad, right? So it's kind of like you're in your lifeboat, and you send out a little scout and see if they can push into their territory. So it makes sense, but that also goes against a particular proverb, play away from thickness. So that includes your own thickness. Don't play so close to your own thickness. It's like adding a brick to a giant wall, right? You don't want to be building next to something giant. But the point of today's DDK Advice Corner is, you know what? You can go in deeper if you have other outs. So let's say you think that going on deeper than that is too dangerous because there's so many enemy stones, and that's why you didn't want to venture too far from your own group. Well, I noticed in this game that this person had a couple of other stones here and there around this giant influence area, and imagine those other stones of yours as additional lifelines. Because imagine your opponent successfully cuts you off from your main heavy, thick group. You can now take that as a passing move and attach or use another move to connect your stone to another area of the board. Maybe you can start a fight. There are many ways you can take an invasion and look at how to take advantage of your opponent trying to cut off one way or another. It's kind of like being cornered in like an intersection, and somebody's trying to chase you down one road, but you have the other 3 to move on. And obviously having more of these options is better. But if you have only one escape route, then yeah, you do have to, there will typically be an end game move if you're thinking about making a jump from a very thick, fully alive group like that. So if it's not an endgame situation, usually there will be some other strategy to be flexible with it. So that's the tip of the day. Try to look for multiple lifelines and don't cling to your one lifeline. And now it's time for some listener mail. Sadaharu writes, in regards to the end of year review episode, wow, that message was recorded by yourself. It sounded so different. I almost thought it was another person. Sadaharu, it was myself from last year, but I did apply a little bit of post-processing to just make sure it's distinguished from my current voice. Otherwise, you'd hear 2 voices and you're just like, which one's which? So that might be the reason it sounded like another person. And then continuing, this year I was so busy with my new kid that I didn't have much time to play Go. Maybe you can do an episode of how adults with kids find time for Go. Haha. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year too. Why, thank you, Sadaharu, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year as well to you and your family. Congratulations on the new kid. I do want, my fiance and I do want kids in the future as well. So when that time comes, maybe that's when I'll do an episode of Starpoint on that matter. But I hope you can maybe train your little one to become a strong Go player, which would be very cool. Thanks for writing in, Sadaharu. And then Eliezer writes, what were the most interesting countries you had in the Wrapped? The Wrapped itself didn't have a full list of the countries. I think it just showed me the number of countries, but I think I can rattle off here a number of the top countries. I think it's so interesting. So let me just show you my stats here. So in the United States, that's 48% of my listeners, and then followed by Germany with 11%, and then the United Kingdom 7.5%, Canada 3.5%, Australia 2.7%, Austria 2.5%, Sweden another 2%, France 2%, Spain, 2%. The Netherlands, 2%. Switzerland, going down to 1%. Norway, 1%. And the rest are going to be 1% or below. Belgium, Italy, Poland, Brazil, Japan, Portugal, Netherlands, Israel, Slovakia, Romania, South Africa, Singapore, Chile, Hungary, Finland, Slovenia, Sri Lanka, Hong Kong, Ukraine, Denmark, New Zealand, South Korea, Taiwan, Malaysia, Ireland, India, Argentina, Philippines, Colombia, Iceland, Mexico, Thailand, Bulgaria, Russia, Egypt, Aruba, China, Vietnam, Czech Republic, Turkey, Ecuador, Republic of Lithuania, Indonesia, Greece, Estonia, Georgia, Croatia. Hey, they listed Turkey and Turkey, so I don't know the difference at this point. But Turkey, Uruguay, Cyprus, Lithuania, the Bahamas, Latvia, Uganda, Seychelles, Morocco, Costa Rica, Puerto Rico, Panama, Nepal, Dominican Republic, Nigeria, and Peru. So, if you were one of the last countries mentioned, you're probably the listener representative for that country, because those are all less than 0.1%, so very few, but still amazing to see this incredible list of countries of Go players all around the world. It's so cool to see. So I thank each and every one of you for listening from your respective country. And I know a lot of you, English may not be your first language, so that's incredible that you're seeking out Go content. And I mean, English is the lingua franca of the world, so it makes sense, but at the same time, still pretty awesome to have so much of a diverse range of countries as the listenership. Thanks for your question, Eliezer, and thanks for writing in. And the question of the week this week is, do you find yourself playing Scorched Earth Go as I've described it? Do you find yourself trying to do this like winner takes all mentality to the game, where you try to kill every group, try to take all the points, and do all that? Has that worked out for you? Have you tried to stop it? Let me know your experience in the comments. So if you want to share your thoughts on this question, or you have a Go story to share, or you want to ask me a question, you can comment on YouTube or Reddit for this episode, or you can email me directly at startpointpaduk@gmail.com. That's startpointbaduk@gmail.com. If you're a YouTube listener, I would greatly appreciate a like and a subscribe. And if you're a podcast listener, reviews and ratings also help. Also, Spotify recently, I think, has floated their comments section on the app to the top, and you can see like more comments on the podcast episode. So check that out if you're on Spotify. Very special thank you to Jeffrey H., James B., and John M. and Tristan for supporting Starpoint. And a note to James B. He wrote in on how to support Starpoint moving forward, because Spotify support is ending. They've decided to cut the program. So I've moved over, I've mentioned this in a couple episodes back, to Ko-fi. That's ko-fi.com/startpointpaduk. And he immediately started supporting me there. Very, very big thank you to James B., known as Bellicose on Ko-fi. I'm going to read off whatever username appears. So that's for your support on Ko-fi. Thank you so much, James B./Bellicose. And I have a joke for you guys. A Q player, a 1Q player, walks into a Go club. He sits down in front of an old man and asks for a game. The old man says nothing and just simply puts one handicap stone down on the board before playing his first move. They play a close battle, and eventually the Q player loses by just half a point. Since the game was so even, with the old man taking only one handicap stone, the Q player thinks, he must be a one-dan player. Right, because you have one handicap stone. It was a very even game, so he assumes that the old man is a one-dan player. Then he challenges an even older man to the game. The older man also says nothing, puts down 2 stones, and starts playing the game as white. They play another close battle, and again, the Q player loses by just half a point. And the Q player thinks to himself, this man must be a 2-dan player. Then he approaches the oldest man in the entire club and asks for a game. Without saying a word, the oldest man dumps an entire bowl of noodles onto the Goban. And the Q player gasps and says, "An udon player!" Coincidentally enough, I had udon today for lunch. Thanks for listening. Keep playing Go.